Wish someone would have told me I could approach this as an apprenticeship, right? There's no shame in copying the masters. And I think I got so wrapped up in doing something new and innovative, which you hear all the time, like new and innovative. And I forgot that you can't break a rule until you've mastered it. So I'm going back and doing that now. So I have, I go and and here's what I say: search in LinkedIn, search everywhere you can for examples of other IDs out there, experienced designers and their portfolios, for one of two reasons. One, you're either undershooting the quality of what you're doing, and two, you might be overshooting, because we're perfectionists and we may think that we need to polish something to a diamond-like quality before it can even be shown to other people, and it doesn't. So you need to understand what good looks like, right? And then just full on copy these modules and stuff. Just copy it, because in the process of doing that, you learn the craft, and it is a craft. And then from there, you can flourish and create and innovate and stuff, but you can't skip that step. So I feel like we can get very in our heads about it, but you've got to get tactile. It's a craft at the end of the day. And unless you practice that, you won't master it.
There are a million places to go and do this work, right? You can go be in a company, you could be in K-12 school, higher education, you could work in a firm. And there are lots of different ways that you can do this work too. And I would just say, best thing to do is try to think about the kind of organization that you think is going to be able to thrive. Think about where you think you're best suited in terms of your passions and the things that you're good at. Try to look at that Venn diagram and find the right fit that way. Because I don't think this is despite the fact that the labor market generally is pretty awful, as we all know, if you're getting into this field, find a place that's going to allow you to not just have the job that you want now, but accelerate into the work you want to do in the future. Because I think if you hold out, you're going to find something eventually. You're going to find the right thing. And waiting and getting on the right track from the beginning is critical. Let's say, I have never enjoyed development. I just don't really like using Articulate. It's just not something I enjoy. I really like consulting. I really like very early design, prototyping, stuff like that, the research. But just development, it's just not the most fun thing for me. And I know a lot of people who for development, like that is the most fun thing for them. All of these things, you might find two jobs that are both called learning experience design. And one is 90% development and the other one is 90% consulting. And you want to be able to tease that out when you're looking into a job. And you want to know, what does this job lead into? If I'm really successful in this job, what does that mean my next job is? What types of opportunities does that open for me? And so if you understand what you want, what you're excited about, what your passions are, what you're good at, make sure that you get into a situation where you can build your resume in a way that allows you to get more and more of what you want.
Really understand what motivates you to be in this field. So, is it that you really like helping people? Is it that you really like working with the technology and creating those kinds of things? Because I think that will help you decide what training organization you fit best in. And then the other big thing that probably applies to any career path is, it's going to change. So just get used to that and be flexible and learn from people. It's all about relationship building, right? If the people that you're trying to build content for don't trust you, it is not going to be a good relationship. And, I have been in partnership with groups that had bad experiences with instructional designers. And it took a long time to rebuild that, that relationship and that trust. But once it was there, then, you know, we really made a lot of progress, and we moved forward, and we worked very well together. And that's kind of how you build, you build those not only relationships, but then you get people who want to work with you, right? So it's not so much, oh, I have to get the training group involved, I can't just do this myself. It's, they bring a lot to the table, and we value that, and we want to partner with them. But sometimes it takes time to build those relationships, and to kind of prove that, you know, what you do is a profession, it is a skill set, there are methodologies around it, you know, just like project management or change management. But I just don't think they always look at it that way. And I've run into that for all of the 20 years, right? I still run into that. So you know, you have to be willing to kind of push through that. And if it can be kind of painful, but it's worth it in the end, right? You get those relationships and those people who really want to work with you.
We tend to focus a lot on the technologies. We tend to focus on the systems design aspects. But really, when it comes down to it, it's about relationships and being able to communicate with stakeholders in multiple directions. Mm-hmm. You know, stakeholders that, you know, this is a negative, not a negative thing, I mean, but, you know, how can you communicate down to people who are doing, you know, in the trenches doing the work? How can you communicate out to people who are, you know, necessary to help you succeed in this work? How do you communicate up, you know, to leadership? There's a lot of soft skills in this work that I think is underplayed, and, you know, building up trust, being open to communication. So I just would focus on the human element of learning design. Remember that it's not just the learners who are the humans, but there's also the faculty and the decision makers, as well as your own team.
Talking with one of my folks in IT recently, and we were both kind of just complaining, actually. And I said, I don't know why you're complaining. I said, people listen to you. You know, you walk in and they say, here's my problem. And you say, well, here's the solution. And this is what it's going to take to solve it. And they say, okay, can you do it by December? And you say, no, it's going to take until June. And they say, okay. And I walk in and they say, I need people to know this. And they hand me a stack of things. I want a quiz and I need it done by December. And he said, it's really easy to explain that. They think what I do is magic. They think they can do what you do. So that's where the tricky conversations come in, is convincing them that you know something that they don't, and that's okay. It's really about being able to communicate what you bring to the table.
You know, we are professionals. We work in a field, unfortunately, that doesn't always get the respect we deserve, and we don't always demand the respect that we deserve. And so we sometimes knuckle under to our organizational stakeholders. And to me, that comes at a place of weakness. We have a dysfunctional relationship with our organizational stakeholders. They don't know learning. And because of that, we have a hard time educating them about learning. So what we tend to do is we tend to get down on our knees and say, okay, we're going to provide you with business sounding stuff because we think this is what you want to hear. And so we do things that aren't necessarily in the interest of learning or performance, but that satisfy. So we think, okay, well, they're going to want businessy sounding terms. So let's give them ROI numbers. Let's focus on learning impact but not learning. And then we're going to satisfy them. But by doing that, we're completely ignoring our own responsibilities to create effective learning. And effective learning means not just that we're engaging the learners, not just that we're helping them comprehend or understand, but we're also helping them to remember and to act. And, you know, sometimes we forget those fundamentals. One of the things we do in our field is we become order takers. Somebody in a department in the organizations comes to us, say, we need a course on this. And we know that we should be doing some serious needs assessment, that we should be, you know, creating really good evaluations for this, that we should design it in such a way that's going to be effective, not just really short something. But the stakeholder tells us this, we got to do it this way. And so we tend to knuckle under. We need to have a very clear intake process that asks people questions, some of them leading questions. I talk about sending stealth messages. So as a way to educate people, if you educate people occasionally through like didactic, persuasive presentation, it could be helpful, but it's not going to do enough. But if we have an intake process that we know we're going to follow with everybody, then we can sort of send messages about, you know, some of the important things. So we can ask, okay, great. So if we do the best training, we design it really well, what can we do to add other supports to it? Can we get managers to do it? Can we get coaches? Can we provide reminders? Can we do all these other things? And when you, just by asking those questions of our stakeholders and ourselves, we're sending a message. We're educating ourselves on a daily, not daily, but a regular basis. And by doing that, we pay attention to what's more important. Our stakeholders pay attention to what's more important. So it's not enough to think that we're doing the right thing and they don't really know what they're doing and we'll have to educate them. We have to like bake these things into our processes so that we do what's right and that we can get other people to do what's more effective.
Make something that people want to consume and want to. This is where marketing has given us a lot, right? There's the psychology of marketing, the psychology of learning are so similar. A lot of the tools are similar, especially if you look at some of the more analytical stuff that we're doing. But it's hard. It's really hard to find talent that can produce something that you're proud of and that you want to put your name on. And so I think sometimes there's an excellence kind of, we need to somehow foster talent that has a higher standard for excellence, that understands, oh, our learners are savvy. If you give them something that looks unappetizing, yeah, they're not going to consume it. And if it's full of errors and everything else, if you don't have some of those enabling skill sets, you won't be able to do the strategic work. So there's like a foundational thing that builds on each other, right? And it's like, if we can't get that, right? And you know, you and I've talked about this before about how you vet talent, how do you find the right talent? The right talent in this space is gold. And you will move through roles and layers and get all kinds of opportunities. Just because sometimes I think it's really hard to get people to understand the standard of what quality instruction means, even at a minimal level, even if you are in that kind of survival mode of just distributing stuff out. It's like, okay, well, can you make it look like decent reference? Can you, information mapping and writing and some of these things we put maybe behind like cool colors and branding and other kinds of things. So that's my soapbox piece is, please, let's create something we can be proud of.